What is up, everybody? I'm George Mossey. I'm here with my co-host, Marshana Dahlia. First of all, happy holiday to everyone. I hope you are enjoying the day as we are.
Yes.
90 Day Fiancé the other way. We got episode 2 last night. It's a lot to talk about, so I'm going to jump right in. Kenny and Armando are back. They are actually planning their wedding, which we saw that they got engaged last season. Everything is going well. Armando has this huge list of people he wants to invite, over 100 people. And Kenny is worried about the price, and we're going to talk more about prices of weddings later on with Evelyn and Corey as well. But this is something that people are very stressed about, and they actually found some good wedding planners. Both of them happen to be gay and have done same-sex marriages. So any obstacles that they might find in Mexico, they're going to have an advantage of getting past and working with vendors and venues so they won't have any issues. So I'm really happy for them for that.
Yeah, I'm so happy for Kenny and Armando. I think everybody who watches this podcast and watches the show can agree that we're all super duper happy for them. They're one of our favorite, couples, and ironically, the most well-adjusted. So we're super happy for them. Now, listen, I'm a I'm with Kenny. Too many people is too many. As most of you all know, if you follow us, I got married last year, 2020, just before the pandemic hit in January. And we had 97 people at our wedding, and it was a lot of people. So I couldn't even imagine having 200 people. It's just too much. But I do like to see them just moving forward with planning a wedding. And it just goes to show there's nothing like planning a wedding to kind of teach you the cultural differences between a couple. Because Armando's of the mind, like in Mexico, it's common to invite your friends, your family, your neighbors, people in your community. And you can tell that at the core of it, he's very much traditionally Mexican, which I think is a good thing. I think people is too much, but for him coming from where he comes from culturally, you can see the difference. And I just hope that Kenny and Armando can meet in the middle somewhere.
Yes, I hope so too, because they say a wedding can be what breaks the couple. So you know how strong your marriage is based on planning your wedding and how long you're going to stay together. So hopefully they can get it together. So let's talk about Corey and Evelyn since we're talking about weddings. So for some reason, they are going through with getting married, which I'm confused by. The rest of the world is too. And Evelyn, who says she never wanted to get married a day in her life, has decided to hire one of the top wedding planners in Ecuador and has a $50,000 budget of Corey's money for a wedding that she never even wanted.
It's just beyond me. I really hate this couple. I don't hate Corey, but I really just don't like Evelyn and the way she uses him. She also showed us last night the extra plot of land that she had him buy, in addition to the bar, which I don't even know if it's turning a profit. And it just seems like all of her business ventures and all of the things that she wants to acquire, she uses Corey's money for. She knows Corey doesn't have the money left over because she can see where Corey invested his money, and he invested it into her and all of the projects that she pushed on him. And now it's like, if you want me to marry you, well, I'm going to punish you by having to pay for the most elaborate wedding, knowing full well she doesn't want to be there. I hope that Corey got the other girl pregnant and that will end this relationship. That's what I'm hoping for.
I think it's surprising that they're planning the wedding before he tells her this secret, because I feel like $50,000, if he even has that much to spend, is a lot for a wedding that won't even happen. He should tell her what's going on with this Jenny girl from Peru right away.
He doesn't have it, okay? He doesn't have it.
So, okay, let's talk about Ellie and Victor. So Ellie and Victor, well, Ellie is getting ready to move to Providencia, and she decided that since it's like 4 or 5 days away from the day that she literally moves, that she's going to tell her friends, because she's terrified to tell her friends, because you and I both know her friends are going to be terrified for this terrible decision that she's making. And her friend actually brought up something interesting. She said, well, why don't you do a background check on Victor? And to everybody's surprise, Ellie says, oh, well, I wouldn't find anything new. I already know about his domestic violence charge, which caught everybody in the country off guard. We didn't even know how to react.
It's so hard for me to judge Ellie, given that she's a widow. Her husband passed away tragically years ago, very early on in their marriage. It's so hard for me to judge her because, like she said, it's been hard for her to love and find love. I don't think she's found love with Victor, but I think that she is married to the idea of finding love with Victor. And, she's making decisions from a place of loneliness and fear, so much so that she's giving up her business. I think her friends are right. Run the background check. He did tell her about his domestic violence issue, but that doesn't mean that she knows the whole story, right?
Right.
She did say she spoke to the ex, though. And the ex and him now are on good terms. But I still don't know what that has to do with the price of rice in China. Like, I think all of her friends advice.
I am just wondering the situation because she said that she's financing a house that they're going to live in because she has to have a bathroom. Apparently, some of the homes there don't have like bathrooms on site, or there's no hot water. There's different types of situations. So she wants to make sure that she can have certain luxuries, or I don't want to say luxuries. Hot water isn't a luxury.
Keep in mind, when I came of age in the 80s and 90s, and when I would spend time in Jamaica, we didn't have indoor plumbing. We had an outhouse. We didn't have electricity. We bathed in the front yard and used our outhouse. It was a different time. And she did say that Providencia was a lot like rural Jamaica from that time. So I can see why she would want to invest in having, certain creature comforts, but I'm sure Victor's not using all of the money for the intended purpose. I bet my wig collection on it.
We did see pictures of the house and the progress, and I was questioning it right off the bat. All right, so let's talk about real quick Jenny and Submit. So Jenny is basically finding out her visa being canceled was a fluke. It was a system error. She can still renew her tourist visa. So instead of her temporary intelligence and use of common sense and trying to leave, now she's back at trying to make it into what can I do to stay? And now they're meeting with an immigration lawyer. And here, I wrote it down. It's something called the International Society of Krishna Consciousness, which is some sort of religion that she's going to consider joining in order to get citizenship for a man that will refuse to marry her. He can solve all of this by marrying her. And 10 years in, she is still making these strange out-of-pocket decisions that leave her in a strange, horrible place. And Submit is not willing to compromise. And I'm just wondering, is this really how it's going to end for her? Is she really going to just be his girlfriend for the rest of her life? Is she never going to want more?
It's interesting. We live tweet every show. If you don't follow us on Twitter, please do. It's at George Mossey and at Marshana Dahlia. And one of my most popular tweets last night where I was like, listen, Jenny's been in this for 10 years. I think she's 62 now, which means she started this at 52, and she's nowhere. She shouldn't have had to even wait for him to get a divorce because he was single when she met him. He should have just married her right away. But no, instead he married someone else. She had to wait for a divorce. Now she's waiting for family approval, which will never come. Submit is kicking her down the road. And it's like Jenny does see this. When she got frustrated last week, she saw it. And I felt like, okay, she's turning a corner. She's coming to her senses. She's realizing it. And no, she's not. Now she says she's not a religious person, but she's about to go join Lord Hare Krishna. And then I'm like, you know what? Maybe that's not a bad idea because Hare Krishna is the only man that wants you. Sumit does not. And for somebody like Jenny who says she's not religious to even truly genuinely consider joining a religion, such as becoming a devout follower of Hare Krishna. And I'm not here to say that being a follower of Hare Krishna is a bad thing, but she's only doing it for the motivation to be able to stay in India because Sumit will not marry her. Does she not realize that this man will do anything, like including have her join a religion that she doesn't believe in, to do anything other than marry her?
It's insane. Considering it shows the point of desperation that she has reached. And I just want her to pack up, like she said last week, go home. I know that she doesn't have anything to go to, but she does not have to put up with this situation.
To go to. And it bothers me when she says she doesn't have anything to go to. And I think she's measuring her life in a material way. Maybe you don't have a home and maybe you don't have a lot of money to go home to, but you have your children and your grandchildren who are missing out on very valuable years with her. So I don't like that saying, I don't have anything to go home to. You have a family that loves you and they would love to have you home with them rather than in India chasing a dead end.
I agree. All right, guys, that's it for part one. We got to come back for part two and talk about Steven and Alina and Ariel, Benjamin, Leandro. There's a lot to talk about. We're gonna come back and we're gonna focus on these two situations, especially Ariel's situation, because I just wanna break down and analyze this craziness that she's putting her boyfriend Benny in through. And make sure you live tweet with us, like she said, every Sunday night. I'm at George Mossey. This is at Marshana Dahlia. I'm George Mossey. This is Marshana Dahlia Spavento. Thank you for joining us, and we'll be back for part two, 90 Day Fiancé, The Other Way podcast. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you real soon.